Today we're going to be going over the Sign Pro Milescraft, and this is the model 1212. And this is something that if you've ever wanted to make signs, whether it be for your kids' fort or their outdoor systems, or even if you want to do, I've seen them in the backyards where they actually have a single post that has signs pointing in all kinds of different directions and maybe some fun sporadic colors. This is going to be something that will make it so easy for you to do, especially if you've already got a router. Now, for those of you, this is not about a CNC or a carving machine. In fact, this would be for someone who doesn't have that and you want to do it yourself, but yet you don't want to invest in all those things. So as far as the 1212 model, it comes with a variety of different things. You're going to get letters and numbers that come in 2.5 inch as well as 1.5 inch. That will be horizontal, and you'll also get those same sizes that will come vertical also. And then it'll in the complete kit, it actually comes with the router bit also. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start off with this system. We're going to make a couple of signs with having this, and I want to bring you along the way so you can see honestly just how easy it is. So with that being said, let's get started. The bottom is specifically for this particular system that has this twist top that gives you this guide, if you will, that allows you to stay within the forms, if you will, of the letters and or the lettering. So first you just start by adding these two rails. This is what the actual housing for the lettering is going to sit in. And for my first one, we're just going to do a simple one with distance, so I don't need a long one. You can do some extenders to add and make it a little bit further. And those just look like these little couplers that allow you to connect this here and then extend it on. Now, what I'm going to do is sort through. I want to do the larger, the 2.5, because I want this to be seen from a distance. So you take out all these numbers, of course, these letters, templates. And this is the 2.5. So my first one I'm going to be doing is I'm going to start with my 5, and I'm just going to, there's a channel that receives both of those. Okay? Goes all the way down. Keep going. There's my 50. Now, before I add the feet, I want to actually do a spacer. It's up to you as far as the space that you want. I'm actually going to do, you could do a smaller, notice the spacing, right? Side to side. I want a bigger spacing, so I'm going to actually use one of these. Here's the trick that I'm going to let you guys know about. I strongly would encourage you to take some blue tape, put it over this. Because here's the reality is that when you're in a rhythm and you're just going, you're going to start routering this, and then before you know it, you've already messed up your sign, if you will. So from that perspective, I would put some blue tape on it, which just is another reminder when you're doing it, not to actually do that form. So then it'll be 5-0 space, right? And then I'm going to do my feet, F, and then I'm going to do this on the opposite side. Now you'll notice this, what if it ended right here, right? Then you'd have to do, again, another spacer. This can go in, I need a Phillips. And this is just a little stopper that helps the spacing, if you will. So I'm going to put that on. Oh, that's perfect. I won't even need to use it. So I'm going to tighten all of these down just to get nice and snug. I'm going to tighten this. Now I'm going to encourage you, if you want to clean up your boards, you can absolutely clean up your boards. For me, the distance here doesn't matter, but I'm going to go ahead and put this over top of it. The other biggest thing is going to be your actual spacing. You want to make sure that your spacing wise you wouldn't want to go all the way over to the edge because then there's going to be no more space. You just want to make sure it's equally spaced. What I will oftentimes do is I will divide the distance on the ends of this, just make sure that's fairly even. And the honest truth is you don't have to even do that. You could do this and then you could trim it afterwards as well. I'm going to fasten those down. So not only you want to make sure the spacing is even on the ends, but I would also make sure that it's flush across the top, right? And you could use any sort of a marker or an indicator just to... Okay, that's on there quite solid. So now let's go ahead and prep our unit. So we're going to utilize the larger bit. Now, okay, just like this. Now when you're putting these on, this one, it will not fit through. So you can't put this on or put this at the bit in there and then put this over top of it because it will not pass through. So again, you're gonna have to go through it and then feed it down on it. Again, I've got the battery out here just to make sure. Put that in, get that nice and tight. And then let's go ahead and get this on. Now, the other thing you want to be very careful on is that you don't have the bit coming back and hitting the guide. So it needs to be extended beyond that. But also keep in mind, yes, my blade is about half an inch or a quarter of an inch away, but also the template sits up off of the board itself. So with that being said, we're ready to go. You can see right here how it's carving it out, and again, I'm using the edge of this, so I'm using this metal guide right there. When I put that down, I'm slowly inserting into the wood, and then I'm using the edge of that to kind of formulate my edge. You can see how, in this particular case, it's going to give me just a real crisp 0. All right, so let's actually take a look at it. We're going to get all the contents out. And I'm just looking down into the grooves and the valleys here just to see if they're all cleaned out. You notice that I was doing a little bit of a shuffling back and forth a few times. That's to kind of clean out the peak that happens between where you do your passes. You want to make sure you clean out that middle area. So let me go ahead and show you this here real quick. Kind of see 5-0. And of course the feet. Just like that. Okay, so now, and I'm just securing these with any old little screw. Anything will kind of work. I'm just using 3/4 of an inch black phosphate screws, so I can take that off. Now, if you want, you can leave it just like that. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make all of my other ones, and then I'm going to chamfer an edge on the outside of this. You could do a round over bit, whatever you want, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. But I'm going to finish some of the other ones, and then I'll be back and I'll go ahead and then I'm going to batch these out because I've got to do so many of them. So we'll make the other markers, and then I'm also going to be doing the lettering ones. So if you want to do something like HQ and or headquarters, I'll show you one of those as well. So I finished all the distance markers. And now I'm going to actually be doing some of the verbiage. So I actually have a longer piece here of a board rather than the 24 inches, obviously, because if you look here, this one's going to be headquarters. As you can see, the original that I was using, right, this is quite a bit longer if I kind of line that up. So I want to show you guys how to use these extension pieces. And really, it's quite simple as far as that's concerned. These just link together like, whoops, there we go. Just like that. You bring them halfway down, you can cinch that on that side. I'm going to do the exact same process. Let's see. Here. Okay, I'm going to move it down just so I can put that on. So now I'm going to take my extensions. Got to make sure these screws are backed off so you can actually close them in. There you go. There we go. And that is the extension piece. So with that being, I'm gonna go ahead and start lining these into it. Now, one of the things that will help you prevent a lot of frustration is when you're putting this on, you're gonna wanna kind of squeeze it down. This has a tendency with this, there's nothing supporting this, so if you move this out just a little bit, all of your letters will pop down to the ground or come out of the encasement, then you just gotta start all over. Obviously, it's not the end of the world, but it's definitely can be frustrating. So I like to put a little bit of a compression on mine as I'm putting them and putting it all together. Now, there are a couple of pieces that you're gonna wanna be aware of. One, I've got this, and this can actually go on the outside. So what I could have done is, well, and I can still do it. So let me put this one on, just like that. And this can actually go over the outside so that it basically prevents it. If I try to, see how I can't now spread the legs, if you will, and that keeps the letters intact and held in. So again, let's finish putting these in. The reason why this needs to stay mobile is obviously once I get my router close to it, I'm gonna have to move this over to be able to do this area here. So you've got to be able to translate that. Now it does give you two of them, so I could have actually put that on this side of the extension. But I've only ever used one. Now, another thing, if you guys are wondering, oh, I don't like how you have to screw into your board, please keep in mind, you do not have to do that. There are other ways of doing it. There are clamps that you can use. Notice these are kind of a low profile, so these can kind of come up and over, so you can still get your router base around here, and this isn't gonna interfere with it. So those also come with the kit, so that way you don't have to actually put a hole in your work surface. So I've got to center it between here and here, not this way, okay? Now, the other thing is, notice that my ability to screw in doesn't exist on this particular board unless I would have made the ends long enough, which I obviously could have done. But to get this to stay still, there's two things. One, you'll notice I've got this mat. You can buy these off of Amazon, and what I'll do is I'll link this down below so you guys can see. But if I were to kind of roll this around or try to move this board without this here, it would slide all over on this laminate top. So I put that down, and it actually provides adhesion, if you will, to that. So now let's measure. What I'm going to do is the distance between the S and the H. Okay, that's 29. So what I'm going to do is that's actually 14 and a half is going to be my center point, which is here. That's going to be my center point for this one. Now I need to line that up. Okay. At the 18, which is my center of the board. So center of the board and center of this. Right about there. Now, in all honesty, what I probably should have done is I cut this board down ahead of time. I should have left it long. I'll fasten this down and then trimmed it afterwards to the dimension. All right, so let's take a look. All right, we got about 4 or 5 more to go, so I'm gonna keep going. All right, so we got all those done. It took me about 2 hours. One thing I will say is that the palm sander that I was using, for some reason at some point I thought that was going to be a good idea, but it was honestly just underpowered. Now it worked, but I just had to go slow, and there are a few times that it got kind of caught up. But I want to show you the signs that I finished. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get them painted, but let me show you what I've got real quick. All right, and again, just to clarify, these are going on our range at our airsoft land. Yes, we do have one that's set up for 232 feet. Why? Because we have little ninjas that show up like X-Shot who could hit a fly off of a tick's nose. And we're coming over here. And then this is going to be for the 4-way, so we'll have arrows that I'll be etching into the corners of these right before we get them all painted. So at this point, we're going to take this paint and primer Rust-Oleum spray, and I'm using white again for the contrast, as you already know. But the things that I want to point out here is not only am I going to hit the bottom of the lettering, right, so that valley component, but I have to now notice I'm holding it at an angle. I'm now doing the one side of the lettering. Then I'm going to switch around to the other side. I'm going to hit the other side. And keep in mind, if you want, you can vary the color of the letters. You could see in the alpha, there's the alpha is blue, Charlie is red. And then I'm going to just add the black paint, which I'm going to do a stark contrast. But if you want, notice in the alpha and the Charlie sign here that it almost has this sponge-like quality to it. All you have to do is run over it once or twice with the roller, and it gives you this really cool kind of spongy-like texture, if you will, or pattern to it. Now, for me, you notice I've got these labels, but I made these arrows that I will be able to adjust them later on in case I ever move the sign. But here's an actual completed version.